This is B-Movie Mike, and welcome to my Friday the 13th collection video. This is actually a video response to a Friday the 13th collection video made by my friend Bizzal. I know I'm posting this kind of late, it's not Friday the 13th anymore, but I have a story and a reason. I had a true Friday the 13th moment. I shot this video on Friday morning, and as I started to edit it, my hard drive that I store all my video files on crashed and just disappeared. Yeah, I had a true Friday the 13th moment. Now check this out. It was Friday the 13th. I was shooting a video based on my Friday the 13th collection. As I was editing this video, which is a response to another video that's about Friday the 13th, my hard drive crashed. So there it is, a true Friday the 13th moment. And I hope you find it more amusing than I did, although I still think it's pretty amusing. Anyway, on with the show, up with the first item, Friday the 13th Deluxe Edition DVD. This is probably the best way to see it unless you have the Blu-ray. If you don't have a Blu-ray player, definitely pick this one up. But if you do, the Blu-ray is probably pretty reasonable by now. I think it's around average $15 or so. This movie is one of those sentimental favorites of mine. We go way back. This is actually the first movie I ever rented. Now, mind you, this is way back in the day where my parents had just brought home a Betamax VCR. And I went to the video store and rented the Betamax Friday the 13th, took it home, watched it, and was just enthralled. I loved it. Now, I didn't get to see it in the theater. I didn't get to see part 2 in the theater. The first Friday the 13th I got to see in the theater was part 3. Ironically, not in 3D. I saw it at a theater that didn't have 3D. And although it's not the most original and or best made movie of all time, the makeup effects and music definitely lift it up above its source material and make it a very memorable film. This film was so popular that upon its release, not only did it define the slasher genre, but it created a subgenre known as the holiday slasher film. Up next is my Friday the 13th Part 2 DVD Deluxe Edition. This is another movie I saw on Betamax, and I loved it. It's a solid entry in the Friday the 13th series, and I believe it set up the template for the sequels to follow, more so than the original. The story's decent, the makeup effects are pretty good, and the music's awesome once again. In this film, Jason is played as more of a pissed-off teenager with a tater sack on his head. And since he is not yet the indestructible, hulking killing machine that he will become in later installments, they show a little humanity to the Jason character. He has some emotion and a little bit of vulnerability. Overall, this is a very good entry in the series and one of my favorites. Up next is my Deluxe Edition DVD of Friday the 13th Part 3. Now, this is the first Friday the 13th that I saw in the theater, and unfortunately, the theater didn't have 3D capabilities, so I had to see it in 2D. But I loved it anyway, even with the cheesy 3D gags. I know some people consider this to be one of the worst of the Friday the 13th sequels, but for sentimental reasons, I love it. I thought the kills were creative, there was a decent amount of blood, there was, some suspense in it. This is where Jason gets his hockey mask. I mean, there's some really good stuff in this movie, and I just really love it. Up next is my bare bones DVD edition of Friday the 13th Part 4, The Final Chapter, released by Paramount Home Video. Friday the 13th Part 4, The Final Chapter is definitely one of the most successful of the Friday the 13th series, and the special makeup effects are awesome-tacular thanks to the return of makeup effects guru Tom Savini. Me and about 10 of my friends from the neighborhood went to see this movie in the theater, and when we got there, the feeling in the theater was just electric. People were just waiting for this. It was a Friday movie. It'd become an event. Well, we're sitting there and everybody's laughing and screaming and cheering along with the movie, and it really just added to it. Not to mention that the acting in the movie's above average, and the direction was really good as well. And then you add into that Tom Savini, and you have one of the best Friday the 13th sequels ever made. Up next is my Paramount Home Video Bare Bones DVD edition of Friday the 13th Part 5. I first saw this movie in the theater, and I will have to say at first, I didn't like it. I felt ripped off. I thought it was cheap. I just thought it was poorly envisioned and terribly directed. I just thought it was a piece of crap. But over the last 20 some odd years, I've made peace with this film and I actually enjoy it now. This movie has some very funny and memorable characters and is actually quite entertaining. A lot of people consider this film to be their favorite of the Friday the 13th series. I wouldn't go that far, but I definitely like it more now than I did upon its original release. Up next is my Paramount DVD Bare Bones edition of Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. I remember seeing this movie in the theaters, and I really loved it because I still had a bad taste in my mouth over Friday the 13th Part 5. At that time, I still hated that movie. So when I saw this movie and Jason came back, it was just a great soundtrack, pretty decent acting, some good special effects, but the main thing was Jason was back. And this was the introduction of Zombie Jason, so he was indestructible and unstoppable. Up next is my Paramount Home Video DVD Bare Bones edition of Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. Or as some people call it, Jason vs. Carrie. This is the first sequel that features Kane Hodder as Jason. and introduces his weird breathing thing that I never really understood, because this is supposed to be zombie Jason and zombies don't breathe, so why is zombie Jason breathing in such an over-exaggerated manner? At one time, this sequel replaced Friday the 13th Part 5 as my least favorite of the Friday the 13th movies. I have since come to appreciate it a little bit more. It's cheesy, it's stupid, but it's pretty good. But at first I was just like, Jason versus Carrie, give me a friggin' break, would you? Have you completely run out of ideas? But in the long run, it's not a bad flick, and I do like to watch it every once in a while. Up next is my Paramount Home Video bare bones DVD edition of Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. This movie was so poorly conceived, I just can't believe they actually made it. Jason Takes Manhattan, as everybody knows, he's only in Manhattan for like the last 15 minutes of the film. The acting is horrible, the direction is horrible, the makeup effects are almost non-existent, and it's got one of the worst friggin' endings that I've ever seen in a Friday the 13th movie. You just get the feeling that they didn't even try. It's just a cash-in on the name, and I would only consider it watchable when compared to the next film in my collection, and that would be the New Line Home Video release of Jason Goes to Hell, which is exactly where this piece of crap belongs. This movie is terrible, and it doesn't even deserve to be talked about, so there you go. This is my least favorite Friday the 13th movie of all time, Jason Goes to Hell. Enough said. On to the next one. And that would be my New Line Home Entertainment DVD release of Jason X, or as some people would call it, Jason in Space. I actually didn't mind this flick. I thought it was pretty good. It was a cheesy throwback, even though it is kind of like Jason in Space and it's kind of stupid. I liked it up until the Uber Jason part, and then it lost me. He didn't need to be Uber Jason. He was just fine the way he was. I thought it did have some creative aspects to it. Some of the makeup effects were pretty good. They had a couple of stars from a TV show Andromeda, which I thought was pretty cool. Other than that, not very memorable, but it was decent, and it was a lot better than Jason Goes to Hell. Oh my God, was it a lot better than that piece of crap. Up next is my New Line Platinum Series DVD release of Freddy vs. Jason. Now, I liked this flick. I saw it in the theater, thought it was pretty good, but I really think of it more as a Nightmare on Elm Street film than I do a Friday the 13th film. Freddy's the main character, and he just uses Jason as a pawn to do his bidding. There's some cool fight scenes, there's some good humor in it, but it's a Freddy film, it's not a Jason film. That's why I also have it in my Nightmare on Elm Street collection, because it's both films, but I picked it up just to be a completist for my Friday the 13th, even though I already have it on my Nightmare on Elm Street. But Freddy vs. Jason is a decent entry in the series, and definitely benefited from Robert Englund's final appearance as Freddy Krueger. Up next is a Friday the 13th film that most fans love to hate, and I have the Blu-ray release of Friday the 13th Killer Cut. I think I might be in the minority here, but I actually kind of enjoyed this film. It's parts 2, 3, and 4, all squished together in one movie. And I thought they did a pretty good job. Yeah, there's some dumb elements to it, like the underground layer and all that kind of stuff. People were complaining about Jason running around. Well, did you see part 2? Did you see him running around like a little monkey? Yeah, he used to do that before he was a zombie. And part 3, you got the hockey mask. And part 4, Rob the Jason Killer. I mean, they took all these elements and put it into one film. And I thought they did a pretty decent job. Yeah, it has some of the flaws of the modern slasher, but overall I thought they at least tried to do something with it. And overall it was pretty good. I heard a lot of people complain about, well, when did Jason become a pot farmer? Well, I don't remember the movie ever saying Jason was a pot farmer or that that pot belonged to Jason. What I think happened was that everybody was so afraid of going to that part of Crystal Lake or that part of the county or whatever that nobody ever went on that land. And drug dealers probably figured out that's a pretty great place to plant pot because nobody's ever going to find it because nobody ever goes there. Actually, it's kind of brilliant of them to think of that. But everybody thinks that it's Jason's weed? I don't think so. It's a local hillbilly guy who planted it there so the cops wouldn't find it. Simple as that. I don't know why it was such a big deal. And while I do admit this film has many flaws, I do not believe that it deserves all the crap that it's been given. It's not that bad of a film. It's much better than a lot of the other remakes that's come out. And for that reason, it was nostalgic. It brought back the good memories. I was there. I could point out, hey, there's the wheelchair from part 2. And there's that from part 3. I thought it was pretty good. It could have been better, but overall, not bad. And when I saw this in the movie theater, it was the first time since part 4 that I had felt that kind of energy in the theater that's given off by the anticipation of the people there to see the movie. It was an event again, and everybody laughed and clapped and screamed and jumped, and it was just like the old days where everybody in the theater was having a great time and enjoying the movie. All right, and up next is the Anchor Bay release of the documentary. His name was Jason, 30 years of Friday the 13th, the ultimate retrospective on the groundbreaking horror series. Well, on this one, I want to have to agree with Pizzal. It's okay. It's fairly entertaining, but it doesn't tell you anything you didn't already know. I kind of like the cheesiness of this Tom Savini wraparound. Not everybody does, but it added a little something to it. It's not the greatest documentary in the world, but I did enjoy it. All right, and last but not least is my framed autographed picture of Jason that I picked up at a Fangoria Weekend of Horrors event. Thought it was pretty cool, had a lot of fun, met a lot of really interesting people. Angus Grimm, Leanna Quigley, Richard Liberty, of course, Kane Hodder, and Tom Savini. It was an awesome weekend. Got a couple of autographs, had a lot of fun, and I would definitely be interested in doing something like that again. Well, this brings this video to a close. I would like to thank all the people that watch and comment on my videos. I'd like to thank everybody that subscribes to my channel, and I would like to give a shout out to Pizzal. He's the newest member of the DVD Fiends. It's a group of 7 guys that review a movie every day. It's a great channel. You got to check it out. It's listed in my More Channels of Movie Madness box. And please check out all the other channels I have listed there as well. They're all really good channels and all really cool people. Well, that's all I have for you in this video. Thanks for watching, and as always, comment, rate, and subscribe. I will see you in my next video. Later.